That's it. Recording live from the E. Haley Memorial Studios, straight out of Elmont, Ontario, it's time for This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes, your one and only weekly Warma Hordes news broadcast. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday night, the beers are cold, the news is fresh, and the death clock starts now. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. It is the Death Clock. It is Wednesday night. We have a very special broadcast for you tonight. We had a goal here at Moose Machine that within 2 years of broadcasting that we'd get noticed by the mothership.
Yep.
And that somebody from PP would finally come on our show and grace us. And we talked about it for a long time. George, who's a PG, has been in constant communication with people at Privateer Press since he first started, and he
failed.
talks to them every day.
Yeah, because that's what PGs do. We just sit around,
and discuss rules
in the super secret chat.
That's
with all
the way
the
I
IP
see it.
guys.
In all honesty, it took Maelstrom like a day to take up the torch and was like, "I'll go get somebody," and became friends with Doug Hamilton. Doug, introduce yourself. What do you do at Privateer Press?
Hey, this is Doug, and if you don't know already, I'm a digital sculptor at Privateer Press. I am a full-time staff member, and I try to play as much War Machine as I can also.
One of the cool things and one of the reasons why we really wanted Doug on the show is, and we've said this about our friend Chris Aubin and a few of the other folks that we know that have gone through Privateer Press or are judges or etc. One of the cool things about Doug is he's not just a drone at Privateer Press. He loves the game. He plays the game, and that's one of the reasons why we're super excited to have him on the show tonight. And what we're going to discuss as the show goes on this evening is what Doug does at Privateer Press and sort of about his job, about the gaming industry in general, and that kind of stuff. It's going to be a cool little broadcast. But before I do that, I got to introduce my two co-hosts. The big bearded man, the guy with the plan, who is now sitting on... You've confused me. You're sitting on my right, which is they're seeing you on the left, I think.
Yep.
PG Semi-Automagic, how was your week, sir? Did you get some games in?
I did. I had a massive slogfest with the nice gentleman at the other end of the table, which he managed to play out on scenario because I didn't have anything to kill his freaking Death
Wait,
Stalker.
hold on. Maelstrom won a game on... Do you even
Scenario.
know how to play the scenario?
Barely.
Actually, he didn't.
Chris told me.
Chris Aubin
he
was
was
backseat playing. Yeah,
Put a
gotcha.
Death Stalker on that flag,
Gotcha.
Jason.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maelstrom, and
Yep.
obviously you got a game, and you must be
I
stoked that
did.
you
Well,
won
I
on scenario.
got 2 games in. I played George in the first one and one on scenario, of course. But then I played Aubin the
Nice.
game after that, and he brought 3 units of Cav and just
beat the crap out of
beat
you.
the living
Kraos
snot out of
3,
me.
the solo, and 3 units of Cav.
It was
That's just
just-
cruel. So
was amazing.
My story, of course, I was not able to play this week because I was away because you guys handled the podcast for me last week, which was awesome of you guys. I even heard that you guys did a lightning round on your
Yeah.
own. That was
No,
cool.
we didn't.
Oh.
George shut it down.
Oh,
I
okay.
had the
Shut it
questions
all down.
already, and George shut it down.
I see. So I didn't, but I did get to dojo a list that I'm super excited to play, and it's only going to cost me about $400.
Yeah, I'm not sure you should let that secret tech out.
I'm
Are
not
you
letting it out
sure?
until it happens. No, it's not going
come
anywhere.
on.
I want to show up to a real event.
You want to
and
get to play it at least once.
I want to play it once and then just get beaten and then never play it again, and that's pretty much how it's going to
That's
go.
usually how I do it.
On my super secret tech. So yeah, I just basically dojoed all week, but it's nice having friends like Marc Andre and Chris Aubin and those guys that I can be like, so I'm not as good as you guys. What do you think?
Yeah.
And they tell you. And if you're right, you're right, and if you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yep.
Doug, did you get any games in this week?
Yeah, actually, in the last week, I've gotten 4 games in, and I would have actually won all 4. I did help a buddy. He didn't see how to beat me, so I helped him out. He's a little rusty, so I didn't want to. I wanted to. I've been walking on him enough that it was time for me to help him out a little bit, but I got a little lazy and I just played Butcher 3 the last week. So it's one of those lists where you just don't have to think about it.
Sorry, we call that kicking puppies here. You didn't feel like kicking a puppy.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go right into the news for this week. We have a few little tidbits. G, you were on the ball today. Caught another little teaser for the we're pretty sure it's teasers for the new faction.
Yeah, there's been all kinds of wonderful information coming out of Privateer Press's Tumblr and their Twitter account.
Because you're the only one that subscribes to Tumblr out of all of us.
So if you, yeah,
Besides all those 16-year-old girls.
exactly, it's just me and all the 16-year-old girl.
Guys.
Yeah.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, but one of the great things about it is there's all kinds of neat stuff happening over there, not only with great flavorful text that may or may not have a bearing on the sort of like ARG going on, but there's been a series of questions, and the people who answer those questions first are put on the list.
Oh, that's cool. So that's where the list is coming
Yeah,
from.
yeah. So if you get on that list, we have no idea what happens.
You get murdered.
Yeah, well, my assumption is that they send the one guy who, live plays the butcher to your house to just axe you in the head. And, they figure anybody who's smart enough to do that is a threat,
Right.
to get these questions right.
Gotcha.
And so they may need to get rid of him as quickly as
Other
possible.
piece of news is Mr. Souls came and gave us sort of a overarching talk about Scorn.
Yeah, he dropped all kinds of great information, along with what I think is more interestingly, a lot of sort of design ideas about Scorn. So even though he did give us a lot of specifics, and I would highly encourage any Scorn person, any Scorn player, or anybody who's interested in the design process
to go check that out.
Really hit the forums. There's actually a link to it in the chat.
Cool.
And you can go and take a look at all that info.
All right. So, Doug, the first question
Yes.
for you this evening, the first Privateer Press approved question is, do you have any tidbits you want to tell us about?
I have some news. I don't have anything.
Some news.
Yeah, just nothing that you're going to be like, oh my God, Hamilton said. That's going to get me.
Shit can.
Yeah, I'm a little gun shy now after my trip to Indianapolis where I did the Scorn interview, and after working War Machine Weekend where everybody remembers everything that you say. I'm just a little paranoid, but a couple of things. I talked to the guys back at the studio today. I talked to Mike Ryan, who handles publishing the 6 books, and he wanted me to mention that Watery Graves by Chris Jackson came out today, and he said it's the first book in the Privateer series. Went on sale this week. It's a pirate book about Phineas Shea and the crew of the Italian as they race to recover a sunken treasure before Signar gets to it. So he said it's about everything that you could want in a pirate novel, except it does not have a talking parrot.
No talking parrot?
I know. That's what I thought too.
Does Mr. Walls have his monkey?
Well, I mean, if his monkey's bad.
That's true. The monkey is bad.
I have been loving the 6 books. I think I've got all of them now, and I have really, really been enjoying them.
Cool. Any other interesting bits of news for us this week?
Lyle wanted to mention that the latest issue of No Quarter Hit stands today, but what he really wanted to talk about was that, he did mention that the Thornfall Alliance, let's see, there's a theme force in there for the Thornfall Alliance, Minions versus Trollblood, Battle Report, Tournament Triple Threat on Trollbloods, but the one thing he wanted to talk about was in the January issue, he said there's going to be new playable content in every issue from January forward, and also that there's going to be things like Colossal Wrestling in the March issue, and they're going to be pushing some grind, and anyone who subscribes to the magazine will get a special grind ball for those games.
What?
That's cool.
Do you know anything about the grind ball? Is it the plastic one? Is it the metal one?
I'm hoping it's metal with big spikes on it.
Yeah,
well, you have 2 of the original grind. You have 3 of the original grind balls?
I have 3 original grind balls.
He's the guy that has the 3 original.
You could tell the guys at PP, the one guy who ordered all the grind balls, that was me. I think I'm the only person in the last 6 months.
They had to dust off the mold and what the? We didn't even know we had this.
Somebody ordered a grind ball?
Should put some more.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's it for this week's news. Unless Doug has anything else he wants to tell us. Nope.
I mean, there's a lot of cool things coming up. There's the holiday packs that just were shown. I think the journeymen going to full-blown warlocks were on the Privateer store for a short while. I don't know how many of them are still left. I'm going to assume that mine are gone, and those are the ones that I was worried about.
Yep.
One of the cool bits of information that came through from the painting side of things is that we learned this week that all of the scar busts have been sold.
Oh, no kidding.
So
they're gone.
They're gone. It's done. It's over. They sold the whole thing, which means it sold. I mean, I don't know if anybody can talk to this a little bit better than this, but from what Dallas was saying on the Scarbust forums, that sold very well, which means that there's a potential for another Scarbust or for another bust from Privateer Press, which, I mean, that was one of my favorite paint jobs of the year. I did pretty well with it in competition, and that was just a super exciting thing to see. To see PP go in a different direction to do some more artistic sculpts was pretty exciting.
Fiena bust next, Doug.
Fiena
bust next.
If anybody in the chat or listening to us now has a line on the original large sculpt of Sorsha, I would love to get my hands on one of those. They came and went before I was a PG, and I'd love to have one of those.
Good luck getting anybody to part with one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's if someone has one like in a store gathering dust that I'll get one, not someone who actually bought it.
And the no quarter, the last no quarter, the competition is coming up. We may as well announce that because I'm doing a paint for it right now, which is the light,
the lighted one. Yeah, that's gonna look so cool.
We're working on lighted models. I'm working on a group of press gangers that are all lit by the single lantern. That's going to be my entry.
Cool.
So moving right along, guys, let's talk to our special guest, Doug Hamilton. Yay!
You gonna do the Muppet?
Welcome to the Muppet Show. So I guess the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about. We got segment 1 is called Doug and his work.
Whoa, yes.
Doug and his work, and we'll just rotate off the questions. And guys, if you have questions for Doug, once again, throw them in the chat. If you're watching this later on or you're listening to it on a podcast, the best way to get any other questions out there that you think weren't answered or you would like us to pass along is to go to our Facebook page and post them up. If you're watching on the live chat, throw your questions up, and if Doug can or feels like asking them, he will try. The first question we have for you tonight, Doug, is let's talk about the first model that drew you into miniatures and designing miniatures.
Drawing me into miniatures, that's a long time ago.
Long time ago.
That's we're talking early 80s D&D, and it was going to be anything undead. Skeleton warriors, the giant undead Dracolich. Those were the things that really got me into miniatures in the early days, and I didn't actually think I'd ever be making them, but going back to those days, I still have a box of old Ralpartha undead lizardmen, wizards, you name it. In fact, I know I have that Demogorgon.
I was just going to ask.
I know I have it in there somewhere. So I just need to get down to my sister's where all my old miniatures are stored away.
Oh my God, that thing's going to be worth a fortune now.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, it's not going on a shelf.
So how did you sort of transfer, like how did it happen? When was the day that you decided that, hey, miniature designing, that's the way to go?
Well, I guess it was late 90s, early 2000s. I went up to our local game store for a card game demo, Vampire. And in the back of the room were 20 guys playing this giant 40K event. And I walked back there and I was like, wait, you guys are all 30s and 40s, and you're playing with toy soldiers and nobody's making fun of you. How do I get in on this? So one of the other guys from there, is still a friend of mine, he came down for the card game too, and we started talking about 40K and Warhammer Fantasy and how the rules work and that you can buy it and assemble it and paint it. And this was my calling. I wanted to play these games and do this. So I think that day I walked out with a box of Warhammer Fantasy Zombies. And it kind of went from there. And then Tyranids, a box set of Tyranids released a month later, so I bought that. And it just kind of kept growing from there. I played a lot of Confrontation, and then also played War Machine. And I played it here and there. And while I was in school, I thought that the industry may be switching to digital. You could kind of feel it going that direction. There were a few guys doing digital stuff, but it hadn't fully caught on. And I was just like, well, I'd love to make miniatures for a living, and it kind of worked out.
So how did you go from there, Doug? Like, how did you say, I want to do this, to actually doing digital sculpting?
Well, I would work on it in the evenings. I'd work on that in class, and then I would go to conventions. 4 years ago, I went to Gen Con and was handing out cards. And one of the people that ended up with the card somehow was Mike McVeigh, and I ended up doing some work for Sedition Wars for him. I did some repair jobs for Raging Heroes. I talked to Privateer. I didn't have anything to show them. I talked to Weird. I didn't have anything to really show them. I was just handing out cards, and people started to express some interest because the digital thing was new. And after that, I just kept working on my portfolio, and then Privateer happened to put their ad up a few months later around War Machine Weekend, and was able to get an interview with Privateer, and kind of worked out good.
That's awesome. Did you start off with any physical modeling, or were you purely a digital guy?
I never touched physical modeling. My boss, Ron Cruzy, he'll often say, he was like, I can't believe you never did physical modeling because your digital sculpting really feels like traditional modeling in some ways. But I never did it. In fact, I never really even tried it. It just never occurred to me to try to make my own model. And then when I was starting to do digital, I was like, I can make all my own models now.
What was the model that made you just say, holy cow, that turned out awesome? So, I mean, as an artist and as other artists, we all have that breakthrough moment where you're like, oh, I'm not an idiot at this anymore. What was that model for you when you were designing it that you went, oh, well, that was the one. That was that breakout model.
I've only been in the industry for 4 years now, so I've had a couple of breakouts where, which is good. I should still have times where I'll level up, and I think that first one was around the time I was working on Absalonia 2 and Zuriel, where I finished up and I was like, wow, these turned out really nice. I may be able to do this, because that first year or so at Privateer, I was questioning whether it was working out okay, or whether I could do it, or was I good enough? I just didn't know. And Abby 2 and Zuriel really that was the first time where I was like, okay, I leveled up there.
Yeah, I agree. Those are two of my favorite models, actually, and so fun to paint.
I don't like them.
Only because
I want them to die.
They beat you several times.
Last winter, I guess December, January, February, March, somewhere in that stretch, I hit one of those strides where I did the Journeymen that are coming out now. I did Loki and Azrael, who I've shown pictures of. I did Hellmouth. There was just a run of models in there where everything I was doing was turning out really great. And not the things I'm working on now are turning out bad, but there was just a stretch where I was like, wow, everything is... I hit my stride. I really hit...
Yeah.
Okay, now I feel like I've accomplished something, and there's some recognition after that. I could walk around... I walked around Gen Con this year and popped into booths, and people were like, yeah, we know who you are. I'm like, okay, that's good. I wasn't in saying you're knocking stuff over or anything like that.
Yeah.
That was your Led Zeppelin 4, is
Yeah.
what you're saying.
So on that kind of same line, Doug, are there anybody in the industry as far as digital sculpting or just sculpting in general that you look up at? Like, do you have idols in the industry that you're kind of aspiring to, or?
The guys that really influenced me were before sculptors. There are sculptors that I really look up to. Brian Dugas, who you guys know from Privateer. Brian he's just one of the best sculptors I've ever seen. So I'm fortunate to work with him. I was fortunate to work with Michael Jenkins, who may be the best sculptor on the planet. He's doing some work for other companies now, but the kid he's just brilliant. And then also with Ben Meisner, who did the entire Convergence line. I was really lucky to come into the industry and work with those three guys right out of the gate. And for me, being a competitive guy, I wasn't as good as any of those three, but they really drove me to try to get better and really compete with them. Before that, I mean, growing up though, I had the normal art influences, Frazetta, Vallejo, and then going into comics, with guys like John Byrne and Todd McFarlane, and those were some. I should probably say, in Magic cards too, Matt Wilson, but that's not. That's just sucking up, and I'm not going to do that.
So you've done a bunch of models. What model would you love to get your hands on to resculpt?
Not necessarily your models.
Yeah, it doesn't have to
is there
be-
a model that you just itch to be like, come on, guys, let me do a version 2?
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean one of your models that you're not happy with. I'm just like, is there a character or a somebody that you'd love to be able to be let loose on?
Yeah, it kind of stems from the last question about influences. I'd love to do a Frank Frazetta style Fenris resculpt.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
that Death Dealer feel to it, just because it would be awesome. And Fenris is one of my favorite characters in the game, and he needs a resculpt. He needs an update.
What about on the War Machine side? Is there a War Machine sculpt out there that you'd love to mess with?
Horde side.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
On the Horde side, I know I talk to the Legion guys a lot, and I think we all would like to see an updated Typhon.
Yeah.
I've dabbled with some ideas for Typhon. I don't know if my bosses will ever go for it, but Typhon needs to be bigger and do some base overhang, and Typhon.
Cool. We'd like to see that.
I think a lot of people would. I think it would go over well. I think what I'm going to try to do is, if I can just rough in like a head or something like that, and go to Matt or Ron or Ed and be like, "Hey, this is my idea for Typhon. What do you think?"
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all the push I'd need.
Sounds good. So what's kind of in that vein too, Doug? What sets a model apart for you? Like, what is an aspect of a model that you just kind of sit back and you're like, "Wow, okay, yeah, that's an awesome sculpt."
Yeah, I don't know what specifically might. Sometimes you just look at a model and maybe character. I look at Brian's trolls that he does, and they always have character.
Yeah.
And that's something I try to strive for, is to add character to my models. And there's times where I see it, and there's times where I don't. Most recently, Una, the new Una, I don't know what happened, but between the pose and the art and the sculpt, there's just something strong and great character about her that I'm showing people all this artwork at Lock and Load, and I'm showing all these sculpts that I like, and then I go through Una, and they're like, "No, stop, we want to see that one." And there's just something about it there's just character to it that draws people to it. So I think for me, it's character.
I think I could talk to that a little bit. One of the things that's interesting to me about that Una 2 sculpt is that she's not super active, if that makes sense. She's very graceful and stern. And that's something that it sets her apart as a model. It's like, I'm trying to bring the little knife-wielding... she's the tiniest model in the game.
The Black 13th?
The Ashiana or whatever her name is. The secret agent girl. There's something that
Anastasia
Debray that just sets her apart because she's just so different than all the other models in the game that that sternness, that quality, I think, sets her apart and makes it just notice her and pop her.
So when you're sculpting a large model, like Zuriel say, do you ever wish that there was a base size in between the large and the huge? Do you think we'll ever see the fabled 80 mil base?
And we talk about the 80 mil base semi-regularly, especially going into this new edition. There was chatter about it again. I mean, it's not happening at this point, but how great would it be to have some of those Jack resculpts a little bit bigger and on an 80 millimeter base?
Oh, I would love that so much.
Yeah, there's a lot of us that talked about it and would like to see it. I just don't know. I don't know what it would do to the game. I don't know what it would do to production. I mean, for the art guys, for us to sit down and be like, we should make 80 millimeter bases. It's easy for us to talk about it, but I'm sure the guys that run production and handle all that, it would probably be some kind of nightmare for them.
Yeah, I'd like.
Gargantuans were so easy to add to the game. Come on, can't be.
I'd like to put my hand up for the first 80 mil base caster to be a Convergence huge Father Lucont, or maybe a Syntherian in a like a heavy Jack body. I think that'd be the way to go.
Father Lucont was one of my first sculpts. He was I think my third War Machine sculpt. So I'm all for that. Though he took some work, man. That guy. I was early on between.
I hate that guy too. Will you stop sculpting things that kill me?
I, on the other hand, love that model. I actually own two of him in two different paint schemes because I'm a crazy man and have collected all of Convergence, and now I'm doing it again. And though I despise assembling him, I love the way he looks, and I love him on the table.
All right, so the next question for you, Doug, is let's get back into the art a little bit. What do you consider your signature style?
That's not funny. I'm gonna dance on this one a little bit. So I'm gonna go with my signature style. Really, it's not heavy detail. I don't put as much detail in my models as a lot of people do, and I don't know if it's because I'm just older and I can't see it. Okay, yeah, I know. All right, the actual answer to that question is probably female models, because I study the anatomy to make sure it looks right. And no, Guru, that's not in the chat. That's not funny. Brush chewer, yes, absolutely. I do a lot of our females, but sometimes I think it's just because I have a good knack for making the female look good, and I don't necessarily mean a TNA way like somebody mentioned, or boobs, or everything else that's popping up in there, but.
Yeah, that's just because of the immaturity of our particular.
Yeah, don't worry about it. They're all over the age of 30, but yeah.
Yeah, I didn't say their age.
I think it's a perfect segue into the Dodge question of the evening.
Yeah. So
Really, you're gonna do it?
battle heels and chainmail bikinis. There seems to there's always a bit of controversy regarding those kinds of things on models, as to their
Value.
usefulness and value, but. At the same time, aesthetically,
We like them.
Yeah.
Is that something you'd like to dodge around, Doug? We're going to give you an out on this one if you want it. So.
That was one that I was advised to be careful with how I answer.
Yes.
But anyone that's had a conversation with me, or anyone that says that Legion is the dirty old man faction, well, I'm 46, so that answers some of the questions. But the reality to that answer is, we have a wide variety of players. We have players from all over the world and all different age groups. So what appeals to one person doesn't appeal to another person. What is offensive to one person is liked by another person. So we're not going to make everybody happy, but the truth is that we really do a good job at putting some kick-ass females out there that are fully armored and can be good influences. I've seen people post something like, well, my daughter wants to play, but this model has her boobs hanging out. Well, pick the other 30 that don't.
Yeah.
And I think that hits the nail on the head. Also, I mean, it's so Maelstrom's wife plays the game, and so does PG Semi-Automagic's wife. My wife does not, although she kicked my ass with Sorsha once, and then was like, "That's all I needed to do."
Yeah,
Goodbye.
she retired undefeated.
But one of the cool things is that your wife really loves sexy models. Like
She does,
she immediately goes for
War Witch
something that
Negra,
looks something that looks pretty.
Yeah.
And your wife, on the other hand, tends to go towards most of the more conservative models.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that speaks to the audience perfectly that you can't please everybody all the dang time.
And one of the things I love about the PP line is that there is that variety in female models.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That there's
absolutely.
actually female models that aren't just useless things that sit on the side of the board.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the models I've done, even my female models, I try to put a lot of variety in them. There was somebody on our forums that said, well, all your females are the exact same. No, they're actually not, because I make sure that they're not. It might be because our characters, the people in our world, they're not all the same. We all look a little bit different.
Yep.
And so I actually put the time in to try to make those differences. And if you look like Helena from Retribution, she's fully armored. She's she's wearing her house armor. I tried to make her feminine, and I feel like I did to a certain degree. Mm-hmm. Then you put in someone like Una. Una is obviously a female, but she's the only thing showing on her is her face. And then we have someone like Fiona come out, and it's just a variety, and it appeals to a wide variety of people. And I think that the people that may or may not be fans of specific models need to also keep in mind that we all have different tastes, and War Machine is it appeals to a wide variety of people, and we just need to be tolerant of other people's opinions and tastes and not necessarily bash them.
Exactly.
Very well said.
So moving right along, that was great. I think that was awesome. So PP. So here's another sort of. This may be more controversial in the community to you guys, but PP's models have grown over the years. Why are the models moving to the more heroic proportions? And do you guys as sculptors worry about the overhang, or is it just one of those like secondary considerations?
Well, how long has War Machine been out?
12, 13 years now.
13 years. So Matt's getting older. I'm getting older. Souls are getting older. Cruzy and Ed, we're all getting older. You can't see those little models anymore.
That's why the Black 13th got a resculpt.
The brushes are
Just
getting
nobody
shaky.
could tell which one they were.
Also, traditional models, it was hard to get scale. Especially because you have a couple of guys on staff that are doing it, and you have a handful of freelancers, and it's not like digital where you can click a couple of buttons and resize that model. And it's also not like now we can do a test print. Privateer will do a test print to see how that model looks, and then we'll compare it to the current models that are released, and we can say, oh, that sword's too small or too thin, or the head needs to be bigger, whatever. So it's gotten a little bit easier, and I don't know. We kind of have an idea in mind of where everything should be. So going forward, from the last few years, everything should start balance out a little bit better.
As a little nerdy injection here, since you do all your work in a 3D piece of software, what type of printers are you guys using to do your one-offs?
I have no idea.
So you send
It's
someone a file
that
and
does
then
stuff.
a thing shows up?
Yep.
That's awesome to not have to worry about it.
Yeah, we have a couple of printers in house, and we have 4 engineers that I used to. The digital sculptors, we used to break our own models down and do all the keying and everything. Now we have 4 guys now that's what they do is they get the models ready. It might be the hard plastic for China, it might be the soft plastic, it might be the stuff in house. But we have a team of guys now, and they'll do test prints to make sure it looks good. Those guys handle it now. I sculpt. Once my files are approved, I send the file over, and they handle cutting it up and getting it ready.
Nice.
Yeah, and as far as the other part of the question about overhang, I don't really think about overhang that much. Some of it probably is because I'm a Legion player and it's just going to happen with wings.
Mm-hmm.
But also I'm more interested in does the model look good? When I look at the model, is this a model that I would play? And I'll deal with making space in my bag or making it fit or whatever. It's secondary for me. I know for production it's more important to them, but as an artist, I want the model to look good first.
That's awesome. So one of the things we love about PP, Doug, is how open they are with the people who play the game, how active they are talking to people, reassuring people. You especially are very active on the Facebook pages, things like that. Is that something you actually really enjoy doing, interacting with the fans, or is it kind of part of the job?
Yes, it's not actually part of the job. What I do on Facebook is on my own, and I usually try to avoid getting in trouble. So far, so good on that. But I do spend a lot of time with the Facebook groups. I do spend a lot of time talking to people, and I get messages at all hours, all the time. People just want to talk. People want to show me what they're working on, and somebody in the background is making fun of me. So it's not funny. So it's more it's for love of the game. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I was on the other side. I was the guy going to cons and wanting to talk to the artists and the guys making the game. So I get it, and for me it's humbling to be able to spend time with people and joke around with them, and kind of seeing how the communities have come together. Especially I spend a lot of time with Legion, a lot of time with Retribution. I'll dabble with the other faction communities, but those two communities they've had their moments where they were not very good communities some years back, and spending some time in there talking to the people, working with them, getting some other people that have done a great job with the communities. They've really been helpful, and they're helping each other out. They're talking to each other. It's just turned into a really positive experience, I think, for a lot of people. Plus, I get to make fun of everybody.
Yeah, well, that's super important.
That's the best part for me.
So what are the key design differences between something we're going to go 180 on the questions. What are the key design differences from something like, say, Helios and Hellbringer? When you're looking at a faction or, when you're designing something, I mean, Hellmouth is even kind of different from a lot of the other Legion designs other than maybe Proteus.
Yeah, tentacles.
What like when you look at that, how do you say, oh, this is what a Legion model has to have, and how do you tie those designs together?
A lot of times it comes down to the concept art and the art direction. Our art director, Mike Valancourt, does a good job at kind of keeping things in line. And then also being a player helps out a lot because there's art that will come to my desk, and I'll say, what's going on here? This is not Legion, or this is not Retribution, or that's, Circle wouldn't do that. Ron and I had a conversation today about some new art for a faction, and I was like, that's not the style of armor they wear. So we actually went back and looked at the brief and talked about why it would be like that or why it wouldn't and how we're going to handle it. With Callus 2, for example, Callus 2 came in and the art had him with a different sword. Well, the sword he's actually using is the same sword from Callus 1. So it's the brand. And I asked, I was like, well, if this is supposed to be the same sword, why does it look different? So just little things like that might come across that really being a player is a benefit, because I can ask those questions. Or if he's on his back legs like that, does he have attacks for those claws? Or, just things like that that really understanding the game and the playing the game can make a difference. Whereas, like a freelance artist might look at it and be like, well, I'm getting paid for this job, so I'm just going to copy the art.
Yeah.
Right.
I complain a lot. So even if it's spot on, I still complain about it. But, and also one of the differences there, too, it is you were talking about the design differences. From a sculpting standpoint, a model like Helios is so precise, that hard armor surfaces. It just takes more time, and it has to look really good to me. I mean, those edges have to be sharp, and you get to a model like a Hellmouth or the Blightbringer, where it's organic and there's nothing like it. So if I want to make my own veins or my own muscles or my own anatomy for the models, it doesn't matter what I do because I'm right.
Yeah.
I had somebody say, they're like, when I redid all the Nephilim, I did Zuriel and a resculpts on the Nephilim. They're like, well, actually, your Nephilim anatomy is off by a bit. And I was like, no, it's spot on. Trust me.
It's exactly what it's supposed to be. Now, you were talking about the Hellmouth. When you're doing a model like that, a model that has an almost implicit action in the model, what does it take to create that type of life in a model? What do you need to think about and what do you need to do?
Well, some of it is, would I play with this model? What can I do to make this model look cool enough that I would want it on the table in front of me? And that's kind of that's my litmus test on everything is would I be embarrassed to have this model on the table? What do I need to do to make it look good? And like with Hellmouth, one of the things that I tried to do that worked out good was I wanted to put a texture on those tentacles to make them feel more alive. And I wasn't sure if our resin guys would be able to capture that. I just thought maybe we'd lose some of it in the casting process, but they did a great job on it. And all the tentacles that I've seen, they look very lifelike and a lot of motion to them, and they turned out great.
We're going to move on to our second segment. And the last question I'm going to leave you with for this segment, which is sort of you and your career, is do you have any advice for people that want to become miniature sculptors, either real ones or using the 3D design software? Do you have, is there some sort of, is there a path, or is it just gumption?
Stick with it. There's sacrifices to be made, so you're going to have to put a lot of work into it. It's a competitive industry, but there's also a lot of work in the industry right now. If you're an aspiring miniature sculptor, put in a good hard 6 months to a year, and you could be making money doing it. People ask me about buying ZBrush, and they're like, well, it's $700, $800, $900, something like that. I'm like, yeah, but that's not a whole lot of work once you get going. There's companies out there, especially with all the Kickstarters going on. There's always a company looking for freelance sculptors. I get messages from people all the time asking about doing work for them, and I'm like, I can't do extra work. I'm just, at the end of the day, you're tired, and there's so many cool projects though, and I'm just like, man, if I was younger and could work harder and faster, there's just a lot of opportunity. But the big thing would be just sticking with it. It's hard and it's challenging, and but there's not much like getting up in the morning and just working on War Machine models all day.
All right, we're going to move into segment 2, ladies and gentlemen. This is called Doug in the Game. We're going to talk more about Doug and his actual playing of the game versus his involvement in the design of the game. And I guess we had this in the last segment, and I realized it doesn't really fit in the last segment. It probably fits more into this segment. Tell us your crazy convention story.
I don't do anything too crazy at the convention, so
it sounds like you need to come to MooseCon.
I agree. I always wanted to go to Ottawa until I got rid of Zdeno Chara. So
Oh God, let's not talk about that.
It's a kind of a sore spot.
So-
It's a sore spot.
Once that happened, I stopped following Ottawa, which was hard because I was a big Senators fan. But as far as cons go, I nothing too crazy. There's the normal, pre-privateer stuff, the drinking and telling stories about trying to find your room and things like that. And current PP stuff, we have a list of things that are in our handbook that we can't do at cons because we know somebody has done it already and gotten in trouble. So,
So there's a handbook?
Does it have the name of the person who ruined it for everyone else at the end of the line?
And is
Rule Jason Souls.
it a Chris Aubin on there?
that's the truck driving rule.
Rule Will Schick.
I'm not even going there.
All right.
It's like a page and a half of those.
So I know you're quite active on the Legion forum and the Circle forum and the Ret forum, Doug, but are one of those, what would you say is your actual favorite faction to just throw on the table and go to?
Definitely Legion. Legion was the first faction that I wanted to pick up in Hordes. I'm classic old school. I'm elves and dragons. I'm Token. I'm Michael Moorcock. I'm Elric and Corum and the Eternal Champions, and I'm Conan. I like the monsters. I like the dragons. I like the elves. I like I like that stuff. So really, probably Legion is my go-to.
Nice. Me too.
Really?
Yeah.
We don't know that. We've never
So I
noticed
talk
that
about it
before.
every week.
Yeah, it's not like. Do you have a favorite caster and list to play in Mark III? You've obviously had some time with Mark III. What's your go-to caster list right now?
Yeah, it's funny. I would say it's still Absolonia 2 just because I love her and I like her play style. She's fast. She makes her beast better. With Proteus getting better, they're so good together.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little disappointed because I had to drop Zuriel out of my list with her just because he's not as good. And so I like to play Absolonia 2 a lot, and I love playing Butcher 3 in the new edition just because it's a mindless list, and I can throw whatever in with them. Really what I do is I throw stuff that I like. Like I put Ruin in there in the new Behemoth because Dave Kidd, one of our sculptors in the UK, he did both those models. They just turned out great. I took all the Zerkova 2 Doom Reavers and made my Doom Reaver unit out of them, and so it's just kind of a fun thing to throw together. But those are the two that I play most of the time now. I'm trying to work on a Fianna 2 list, but I just haven't figured out what I want to run with her.
Yeah, I'm having some fun with Proteus and Typhon with her and some swordsmen. But yeah, she's kind of all over the place. So I think you can pretty much throw anything in there and she's good with it.
I ran her with swordsmen and raptors. Raptors are really expensive, so I'm not sure if I can keep them in there and still have enough beasts.
Yeah, I hear you.
And I just reassembled the twins. I broke one of the arms off. I really want to make the twins work. I just haven't figured that one out yet either.
Yeah, you and me both.
So, do you? What's it like living the dream? Now you're inside the mothership. Do you get to sit around playing games all day, or?
I actually work remotely now. So I left the studio 3 months ago to come back to the Midwest to take care of my mom. And Privateer let me do that. I'm still a full-time member of the staff. I just work from my kitchen instead of the studio. So while I was in the studio, though, the answer to that question is we're all gamers, and at any given time, you can walk by a desk and see 3 or 4 different miniature games, or someone getting a package in from another miniature company, because we are literally all gamers.
Well, that's important too, is to keep developing and trying different games when they come out. You can't just stagnate on your one, right?
No, any true miniature gamer has more than one game on the shelf.
Unless he's me, who's broke and doesn't have enough goddamn time. So how many... sorry, we'll skip the next one because you already kind of answered it. Do you consider yourself a casual or competitive player?
I was casual up until about a month ago, and the Privateer had a rule in place that we couldn't play in competitive events. We could play in fun events, but I think the worry was that, well, if we win it, we have inside information, and if we lose, then people want to know why we suck so bad. And I was on the why do you suck so bad, and but they lifted that ban, and so now we can actually start playing in competitive events. And so I'm going to try to up my game a little bit, and I still don't see myself doing much better than 2-2, but more importantly, I try to just go have a good time, enjoy the games, and if I can win some games, great. I don't need to win any prizes or anything like that. I have a closet full of more than I can possibly play.
It's the same way with podcasters. People wonder why we suck so bad. Really.
Or being a PG. Everybody's like, you must be good at the game. I'm like, no, I play less than everyone else.
I don't know what you're talking about. You've kicked my ass like 6 times in the last month. It's all Sloan, but anyway.
I beat
just
you on
saying,
scenario, so I'm gonna say that's
saying
true.
it's all Sloan. All right,
I asked a lot of those questions.
All right, the last question for this evening, and it's probably the toughest question we ask anybody. It's the one that puts you in the hot seat. Is what is your must-have thing in your battle bag? That thing that goes to you with cons. That thing that is when everybody else takes things out of their bag, you have one thing that's different than everybody else.
Man, I try to collect different markers and tokens and things like that. So one of the things that I like to have in there right now is my I'm not doing this to kiss up, but my WTC, my Canadian WTC red maple leaf Fury markers. So I got those from Jeff McMartin over in Vancouver, who also took me to a Blues and a Canucks game earlier this year when I was up there. But I have those. I have last year, maybe it's the year before, the WTC measuring tools. Lock and load, we always have some extra markers that are special or some extra dice. So it's the little things that people don't normally see. I like to keep those with me just to be like, hey, I'm actually a staff member.
Sounds like we need to hook Doug up.
Yeah.
With the Moose Machine Feet token. Ladies and gentlemen, the Moose Machine Feet token, it's a proxy marker. It's a bottle opener. It's a feet token. Sorry.
Sounds amazing.
It's the most amazing thing ever created, except for everything else.
We'll send you one, Doug.
We'll send you one. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the questions we have for Doug this evening. It is time to move over to the lightning round.
I went too fast.
I
gotta say.
Wait,
No
what?
smart questions?
What's that? Sorry, wait. All the scorn questions now. So literally for the last, so every time we post, Doug's coming on the show, we get like 5, like, ask him what scorn.
They're in a good place.
And then there was somebody today that wanted to know like very detailed stuff about retribution, and I'm like, why don't you come on the chat and ask?
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
For those retribution guys, the 2 models that I showed at War Machine Weekend have been approved,
Nice.
so they're all finished up. So that's
nice.
good for retribution players.
Sweet. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the lightning round. That's right, the 10 most difficult questions in War Machine. Sorry.
You gonna hit the button?
Hit the button. Ready?
Yeah, hit the lightning round button.
Go.
The lightning round.
Okay, we're back.
All right, it's time for the lightning round. The lightning round is very simple. I'm going to ask 10 questions, 10 War Machine related questions. First, I'm going to get rid of some of the questions that are wide open for you guys to read.
Try not to spill beer all over myself.
This is Doug's first time on the lightning round.
It is.
So he's got a clean slate, which means he can win just by being good this one time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Whereas we have to overcome the inertia of all the horrible...
Of Marc Andre. We just have to overcome the inertia of Mark and Bubba, and the two of them.
So do I have to buzz in or what?
Yeah. All you got to do, you can create your own buzz.
Wait.
You just
Let me test my buzzer. Hold on a second. Let me see if my buzzer works. Hang on.
That seems like too much work. The easiest way is just go eh. Just yell out eh.
Or Bubba,
Or raise your hand a
ding
little
dong.
bit. Yeah.
Okay,
Raise your hand and go eh. That's usually the best way.
I'll do that.
And generally, because you're getting cut out whenever these guys talk,
We'll talk over you as quickly as
I'll just
possible.
choose you instead of them because they're going to answer wrong anyway.
Sigh.
All right. Question number 1. Blood Quenched gives +1 to blank and blank for each living enemy model destroyed. Fill in the blanks.
Give it to us again.
What is the question?
Blood quenched. The power blood quenched
Yep.
gives +1 to blank and blank for each enemy model destroyed. What are the blanks?
I'm going to say attack and damage rolls.
No. Totally wrong. It's strength and arm. All right, moving right along. I thought that was an easy one.
That was not an easy question.
All right. Question
None
number
of us quench our blood.
Question number 2. What is the name of the animus on an agonizer?
That's a scoring question. I told you I'm not doing scoring.
Annoyance.
No, that's close. It's repulsion.
Repulsion.
Very
I was going to
close.
say salt pillar.
Question number 3. What is
That's
an-
Moshe the Desert Walker's nerf.
all right. Question number 3. What is Anissa Raval's speed? Go.
9.
It's 9. Very good. On the ball.
God, she's fast.
What is the POW of the spell Disintegration?
Ooh, good question.
Sorry, what was that, Doug?
14.
It's 13.
I
It's
was
13.
thinking.
I'll give you half a point. You were one away. The points don't matter. Question number 5. Thagrosh can return one beast during his feat turn within how many inches?
4.
Oh my God, it's 3.
3,
Aw.
dude. If you're going to buzz in, at least get it right, George. Jesus.
All right.
You
here's-
know exactly
the
how long it's
questions-
been since
the
I played Legion.
The questions
'Cause
are getting
that's when
harder.
I gave you your Legion.
This is a PG question.
Uh-oh.
How does Prowl work?
Very well, thank you.
Go.
If you are concealed, you have stealth.
There you go. That was good. You're at 2 points. You're
I'm
winning.
doing-
You're winning
yeah,
this bitch.
Yeah.
How could you be
You're up in
winning?
this maw.
Is this
The-
happened?
5.
All right. Question number 7. The effigy of Valor's uplifting presence does what? Effigy of Valor. Uplifting presence. G.
Knockdown models stand up during their control phase.
You get a point.
Holy shit.
Yay! You're in. You're back in the game. Half a point off for giving a smarmy answer 2 questions ago. Though. All right. Question number 8. Croak Raiders are currently on what version of their card?
50% off.
5 points.
What?
Doug's
I
winning.
got minus half a point. He got 5 points.
Yeah, because you're a smarmy answer.
Smarmy answers. Lose you points now. It's a new rule.
Version 2 of their
It's
card.
version 2 of their card. Very good. I'll give you 1 point, but Doug gets 5 for his better, not so schmarmy, funny answer. All right. Question number 9. Dana Blythe is always accompanied by her buddy. What's the name of her best friend? Dana Blythe and
Steve.
Full.
it's Bull.
Yes!
6 points.
Yes!
6
6
points.
points.
You were winning until I just gave away some points for free.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm used
All
to
right,
losing.
it's time for the Minty Fresh question of the week, and I'd like to put this out there that Minty put, for a really hard question, ask this one.
Jesus.
So this should be really easy for you guys.
this is what Minty considers a hard
This
question?
is what Minty considers a hard question.
God.
Minty Doug is our local fluff guy.
Who, oh God, he just asked really hard questions. So,
Yeah.
question is, what does Shekriel mean when translated from Mulgertroll to other languages? Anybody?
Shakriel?
It is Shekriel.
Can you use it in a sentence?
I be Shekriel, yo.
I'm going to go with verklempt.
Going with verklempt. Jason, any answer? What are you going with?
Spadoinkle.
It's Spadoinkle is your answer.
So we got verklempt and spadoinkle.
Good. Doug, do you have an answer?
I don't speak Czech.
All right, fair enough. It is lost and without people.
Like a Disney movie.
Yeah. It's a Disney movie of the poor lost troll.
The trolls are lost.
The
and
trolls
without
are
their
lost.
people.
All right,
And their
guys.
hair sticks straight up and is in many colors.
So we have our upkeep section of the evening. The first thing I've got to do is I got to give a shout out to our home store, the guys that keep this podcast running. Please, if you are in Canada or outside of Canada and you need some either privateer press stuff because they've got it all, They, if you're part of the Ottawa Gatineau War Machine Club, they give you 15% off on all your purchases. They are the one and only Wizards Tower. They are also hosting MooseCon 2017 coming up in January. They are great, and they keep this whole thing running, and they full stock. So if you need something, they will get it for you.
Yep.
And
Or they have it.
And if you're listening to this in a timely manner in the next couple of days, their Black Friday sale has started, and a bunch of the models, if you guys are local here, you know about the 30% off shelf. There's a bunch of models that have
There
just
will be no
migrated
pirates
there.
left. There'll be no pirates left because I'm going there tomorrow.
There definitely won't be any freebooters left.
There'll be no freebooters left for any particular reason.
No.
They
Just because
boot for
I
free.
like them. They
Yeah.
look cool.
They're pretty.
And of course, don't forget that you can get Moose Machine t-shirts. Go to our Facebook page. You can go to our store.
Store.moosemachinenetwork.com.
And you can see all of our cool shirts. Jason's been flurily designing all kinds of cool shirts, and you
When
can
I'm
order
not
them.
getting whipped by my boss.
Yeah, by your mean,
I can't wait to see that tentacle.
horrible boss.
Yeah.
Also, don't forget we do have the Moose Machine coin that you can get, which is so amazing.
It is awesome.
Doug will
a
still
large
soon
base?
have one, and he will carry it in his battle bag.
Does that come with a Moose Machine T-shirt?
It will, yes.
We can make sure that it comes with a Moose Machine t-shirt.
Yeah.
We will discuss that after the show.
Yeah.
So anyways, guys, other than that, there are tons of events coming up in the area. The most important being MooseCon, which sold out.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gone.
So
Sorry.
sorry
Then
you
we
can't
don't
go to
really-
it.
Yes, let's
you
talk
can't
about
go,
things
but
you can't
you
go.
can't go to it.
Yeah.
But next year you can. So stay tuned on next year's MooseCon, which is already in the works.
Yep.
We'll be adding. It looks like X-Wing will be added next year to
Mm-hmm.
MooseCon as well, which is kind of exciting.
I didn't know that.
And we will probably be in the Legion Hall, which means that Beer Machine is real.
Oh.
Beer Machine is real. The cup shall have to have its defender
Yeah.
show up. Other than that, I want to thank Doug Hamilton for showing up tonight. Doug, thank you so much. It's been a privilege and an honor having you around, and I'm excited that we've created this new friendship. That you can come on our show anytime and wax philosophical.
I appreciate you guys having me on. If I can do a couple of quick shout-outs, is that all right?
Absolutely.
One of our War Machine players, I don't know if you guys follow him on Facebook, Logan Combs, who just walked across the entire country.
Yep.
Yeah.
A listener or not, but I want to say hi to him because I spent the last 6 months following him. I can't hardly walk to my car, and the dude just walked across the country. I also want to thank all of our PGs, the people that volunteer for us, that help promote our product. Podcasts like you guys, I really appreciate that. At this time of the year, with Thanksgiving coming up, I'm especially thankful for what you guys do. And also, a few weeks ago, we lost one of our press gangers, Kim Lilborn. Take care of each other and, say hi to each other. And when you see each other at the cons, have a good time together because, man, stuff like that happens and it sucks. And, she was a great press ganger. And also she had reached out to my daughter. They had some similar issues and she knew how to deal with them. And she helped my daughter out without knowing her. She just reached out to her. So I can't say how much I appreciate the War Machine community and how much they do, not only on a gaming level, but on a personal level. So I just want to tell everybody that participates with our game and is at events, thank you so much for what you guys do.
I think the reason why we do this is the community. I do not know. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've worked with people all over the world. Friendships are my religion. And one of the coolest things about this community is that these are the nicest people I know. I love surrounding myself with good, clean, honest, wonderful people, and this community has proven itself above anything else to be full of time and time again to be full of those people. So let's keep on being awesome out there, Moosies. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I think that's it. We're about to hit the death clock. It's time for Dice Down. Dice Down! Moose Machine and This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes is a proud part of the Muse on Minis Network. Podcasts go online every Thursday morning. You can watch the show live every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern on Twitch and keep in touch with us on our Facebook page. Just Google Moose Machine. If you can't find us, you're doing the internet wrong.